Worldwide, American companies that are subject to transfer pricing rules have a positive effect on our economy and generate high-quality jobs for Americans. First, they're leaders in innovation. According to a 2009 report by the Business Roundtable, these employers conducted more than 3/4 of the total research and development performed by all U.S. companies. R&D, as I know Chairman Levin would agree, is critical to sustain job creation here in the United States. Furthermore, the Business Roundtable study shows that employers provide larger than average paychecks for Americans with an average per worker wage of over $62,000 per year, nearly 25% higher than the overall average of about $50,000 per year. Given that our economy remains so fragile and with unemployment stuck at nearly 10%, it's critical that as this committee examines transfer pricing rules or any other complex tax issue, we also carefully consider the economic implications of altering the current rules. Transfer pricing rules have been a matter of interest for some time, and today's examination will help us all understand a little better how American companies struggle to stay competitive. Now, it appears by the witnesses invited by the majority in the second panel that we'll hear the argument that transfer pricing rules provide an incentive for these companies to ship jobs overseas. If that's the majority's real concern, the tax code pushing jobs overseas, then I would suggest we focus on the real problem, which is the corporate tax rate. At 35%, the United States has the second highest corporate rate among OECD countries, second only to Japan. Japan, however, has at least recognized its rate is untenable and is taking action to cut it, leaving us to soon have the highest corporate rate among our major trading partners. While the average tax rate of other OECD countries is 23% and falling, our high rate discourages investment and the job creation that goes with it. Unfortunately, the majority has decided to ignore the underlying problem of our high corporate tax rate and instead has chosen to examine today but one symptom of it, and the stress they place on transfer pricing decisions. In doing so, I fear we'll hear today about some proposals that will supposedly cure those ills in ways that would actually further weaken American competitiveness and the U.S. job market. For example, shifting to an arbitrary so-called formula apportionment system ignores not only the international competition U.S. company employers already face, but also ignores the fact that such a move would expose worldwide American companies to double taxation. And unless foreign countries adopt a similar formula, and virtually all use our current arm's length standard to determine fair market value, the result could be double taxation. And if the apportionment is based on something like the percentage of payroll paid in the U.S. versus what's paid abroad, such a system might create a perverse incentive to ship jobs overseas to lower companies' overall tax burden. The administration's proposals are equally flawed. One of them, in fact, could actually increase taxes on companies that keep high-paying R&D jobs in the U.S. while rewarding companies that decide to move those jobs to lower tax jurisdictions. The arm's length standard for transfer pricing is not perfect, and both Republicans and Democrats have studied this issue in detail in order to ensure proper compliance. In 2004, this committee requested a report from the Treasury Department with the previous administration, which it completed in November 2007, and as a result of that report, it's my understanding that Treasury has continued its work to finalize additional regulations to improve compliance and combat potential abuses. Before I close, I want to make a particular point with regard to the pamphlet produced by the Joint Committee on Taxation. And while I certainly appreciate their efforts, it's critical to note that the Joint Tax Committee, by its own admission, did not look at the transfer pricing practices of a representative sample of American companies. Instead, they focused only on 6 companies with similar tax liabilities. Even more significantly, JCT's pamphlet fails to meaningfully describe other countries' international tax systems or their transfer pricing regimes, and it does not adequately discuss the global tax treatment or transfer pricing practices of foreign companies that compete directly against the 6 American companies that were chosen for the study. And for those reasons, JCT's pamphlet, while very informative about the law, comes without a critical, broader context that policymakers will need to evaluate the effects on international competitiveness of proposed changes to our current law. With that said, I look forward to hearing from our witnesses. I look forward to learning more about this important and complex issue, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed then with our witnesses. Mr. Neal has been delayed, but he'll be early up in the Q&A.